This is my review of the Lapierre eZesty.
This might just be one of the bravest electric mountain bikes that we've seen hit the market. Powered by the Fazua motor, which is relatively untested in mountain biking, it's got around half the battery capacity and a much lower powered motor than all of the other electric mountain bikes. What that does is create a super slim, lightweight mountain bike that doesn't even look like it contains a motor in it. But before we cover the motor and the battery, let's talk about the bike's handling. Based around 160mm travel at the front and 150 at the rear, the bike is set up for trail and enduro riding. It's got a 65.5 degree head angle, and in extra large it has a fairly long reach of 495mm. I've been riding the top spec 6,699 pound eZesty, which is equipped with Fox factory suspension, a full carbon frame and 27.5 inch carbon wheels. The bike weighs in at around 18.5 kilograms in XL, and that weight difference compared to most e-bikes in the 22 kilogram range is quite significant. The low weight helps the bike feel very lively and agile. You can move it around on the trails with ease, and it feels so close to a normal bike in terms of handling compared to any other e-bike that I've tested. Which I'm not actually sure the feeling of the lightweight actually makes the bike better on the trails, just different. Whilst it may be quicker to move around, I've actually found that sometimes a heavier bike you can use the weight to your advantage. It can feel a little bit more planted with the extra mass and help it carry through the rougher stuff, where the eZesty you definitely need to use your body and your strength to keep the bike on track when it's in the chunkier bits. So what about the motor? I mean, the motor is what makes this bike so unique, and it's got some really good points and also some pretty bad points.
Over the limit, it's just fantastic. It is just normal regular pedal bike, no problems pedaling or jumping whatsoever. It is really, really unique in that aspect that you can't even notice. Maybe you can just hear it ever so slightly that it's not buzzing like it would do. And this kind of terrain, little technical kind of trails, brilliant.
So far so good. The bike is so easy to pedal over the cutoff. It just feels like you're pedaling a regular mountain bike. So what's not to like? Well, there's a couple of almost showstoppers for me.
Once you notice it when you're riding the bike, I just couldn't unnotice it. So the motor has 24 points of engagement, and you can see this free play when you start putting your drive down before it actually starts turning the front chainring. 24 points of engagement equals 15 degrees of revolution, 15 degrees of movement before it actually kicks in. Now, in addition to that, you've only got 24 points of engagement on the rear hub as well, that's built around this carbon wheel set. If you are totally out of sync, you've got 15 degrees of movement on the rear hub, and then another 15 degrees of movement on the Fazua motor system. So you've actually got up to 30 degrees of play before the drive actually kicks in. It's really off-putting once you've noticed it, because let's say you've come through a berm or just landed a jump and you want to get the power down. Already you're slightly out of sync because you've got this play on the Fazua motor. It's really distracting to me personally. There's so much free play going on, and also the noise. Can you hear it? It's like when you stop pedaling and enter the free wheel, you get that click.
Well, enough about the noise. How does a bike climb? Does it give you enough power to climb up these steeper hills?
Fairly steep, really loose, you can see quite rocky. Maybe a bit more grip on the right hand side up there. I'm going to keep it in the highest power mode. The front is quite light, so I've got a feeling it's going to want to lift really easily, so I'm going to need to keep my weight forward. It's going to give me a little boost, but I feel that a lot of it is going to be down to technique over power, because you're not going to have just the power to burn straight up the hill. And I can feel the front wants to lift already. I mean, it's almost off the ground. My weight is all the way forward. I've got Eagle on the back, so it's fairly easy to keep spinning. But I think I'm going to be able to do it, but it requires way more rider input. But there you go. Climbing is possible. Weight needs to be all the way forward, and your legs need to keep spinning because you haven't got a powerful motor to propel you up. The motor and the power is just enough to take the sting out of cycling. You know, when you start to get that lactic acid build up in your legs and your breathing gets really, really heavy, and you get in that hurt locker that, you know, a lot of people really like that. You could still do that on this, you just have to pedal faster. But for me, it just takes the edge off. It's not giving me loads of acceleration. It's not really propelling me forward. It's taking the sting off the climb. I can also feel that it's not giving me as much support as it was when it was full. The voltage would have dropped from the battery, and it feels like it's giving me around 50 to 60% of the power that it was when it's full. I'm not sure how accurate my estimation is, but I believe it's being managed very, very well to start tapering off the power output as the battery decreases. I'm in the mid mode, and I do notice that it distinctively lacks punch to help propel you up, because the motor is much more lightweight. So little things like this, if I put it in the maximum mode, it kind of makes a very small change, but not significant. As you would expect, the motor's 60 Newton meters of torque at absolute peak, but it does lack some of that punch. But that's a compromise you make when you go for a super lightweight bike with a small drive unit.
It doesn't feel like it's anywhere near the Bosch or the Shimano at 70 Newton meters. In fact, I was slower pretty much everywhere other than the downhill sections, transitions, on trails. Anywhere I went, I felt a lot slower on this bike, and my Strava times said I was slower. Riding with other e-bikers is going to be really difficult to keep up, especially up the steeper hills, because although it takes the sting out, you don't get that real surge of power that you do from the other motors on the market to help push you forward. So it really got me thinking, who exactly is the eZesty for? I mean, you'll be lagging behind other e-bikers, you'll be slower than you would on a full-powered e-bike, and it's more expensive than a traditional lightweight carbon enduro mountain bike. Well, if the majority of your riding is solo or with other regular pedal mountain bikers, it will give you that little extra boost to help you ride further and faster. You'll be able to do another few laps of your local trails. You can even remove the motor and the battery to save another few kilograms if you want to ride with it powered off. A couple of points: the suspension tune on the rear is not progressive enough. It blows through the travel really easily. Had to add way more PSI into the rear to stop it blowing out. The seat angle is not steep enough to help with the climbs, so you need to get your weight really far forward. And the Fazua remote control on the handlebars just is damn ugly and does not fit in with the rest of the bike's aesthetic. Overall, I did enjoy riding it, but you have to really consider the type of riding that you're going to be doing to find out if this is going to be the electric mountain bike for you.
So how fun is it, and what's the value like? Well, It's difficult. This has been one of the most difficult bike reviews that I've done, and part of the reason is because it is a new category of e-bike. It's totally unique. It's low power. You cannot, unless you're super fit, it's going to be really difficult if you group ride. So if you go out with multiple e-bikers and they've got Bosch, Bros, Yamaha, whatever powered motors, you're going to really struggle to keep up. It's good when you're on technical trails and you're going downhill. The bike, that's where it really shines. It's beautiful to look at. It is absolutely stunning. It doesn't look like an e-bike. The design of it's awesome. So for me, boom, it's going right there, bang in the middle. This is my personal opinion. I've spoken to people that really love it. If you just want that little bit of extra assistance, this bike is going to give you that. I really enjoy feeling like that superhuman. I really enjoy that pace, that exhilaration that you get, the way on a flat that you can just carry on up in the speed, and I just didn't feel I got it with the eZesty. You know, the first time you get on an e-bike and you get that, oof, that real exhilaration, that real sense of, wow, this is cool. You get it on the eZesty, but just nowhere near what you get from some of the other bikes. So bang in the middle. The value, it's an expensive bike, but it has got Fox factory, it's got carbon wheels, 250 watt hour battery. I don't think it's particularly brilliant value, but it's not super out there, unobtainable value, and they do a lower one in the range as well. Thank you to my Patreons who really helped me put this stuff together, because it takes a long time. The Patreons are basically helping me fund this, so if you do want to see this kind of stuff continue, check out my Patreon page, because it really helps me as a creator put all this totally independent electric mountain bike content out there.